Hello YouTube. Just recording a quick video while driving, and I wanted to say that there seems to be a lot of poor human hermeneutics surrounding the feminism issue. This is something that I was thinking about, right? So let's take a statement that I think that people read poorly, and I'm not sure who actually made this statement or where it comes from, but I think that there are two ways to read it, and that's important. Just from the get-go. So if we take the statement, all men are potentially rapists, right? We can read that statement in two ways. We can read it as an ontological, metaphysical statement about men. That is to say, men have some defect, where they all have the desire to rape a woman. Now, that's one way of reading that statement. That seems to be the popular understanding of this statement, all men are potentially rapists. Seems to me, though, however, that there's a completely different way to read that sentence. You can read it, on the other hand, instead of metaphysically, you can read it transcendentally. Which is to say, instead of saying all men are potentially rapists means that that men have this defect, or there's some fact about men in themselves where all men want to rape women or something. You can read it transcendentally and say that what we're actually talking about is we're talking about the psyche of women, and we're talking about how there's always an anxiety in interacting with men, that there's a potential, they feel that there's a potential threat, right? And saying that they're a rapist is obviously just hyperbolic language, but they feel a threat of physical violence. They feel imperiled in dealing with men, even if it's at some subtle level. Now, it doesn't seem to me that this statement is anti-man. It seems to me it's an attempt to draw attention to the feeling of unsafety. Now, whether or not that unsafeness is warranted is one thing, but it is psychologically present, which is what's important if we read the statement this way. So sure, you can get all uppity about that statement, but it strikes me as a misreading. It strikes me as something that's that requires a little bit more unpacking. It seems like a more nuanced statement than people take it to be. And I would say that if women are walking around, and I don't necessarily know if this is true, but it seems like it might be. If women are walking around in perpetual anxiety of physical violence from men, if they view men as potential rapists, particularly strange men, particularly men they don't know or whatever you like, and even men that they do know, if there is this ever-present anxiety, that's a problem. And that's a problem that needs to be dealt with, and furthermore, it's a problem, well, if it can be dealt with, it might not be able to. It might just be a feature of the human psyche, who knows. But it's something that can't quite be ignored. And it's also a kind of bondage, right? It's a kind of keeping in one's place. You know, if you keep somebody in paralyzing fear of you, there's a kind of domination implicit in that, regardless, totally regardless of whether or not any particular man is dominating a woman, right? There is, or should I say, instead of there being a domination implicit in that, there's more like a subordination implicit in that. That's a better way to say it. There's an auto-subordination, a kind of, this crippling fear is a kind of self-bondage of women in the face of men. And that's a real problem. It seems that you can't quite say that it's not a real problem. It seems that there are enough women out there who express this level of anxiety, to be able to say that, hey, this is probably something that should be worried about, or something like that. Um, so yeah, that's what I want to say. I just wanted to point out one is simple hermeneutic problem, or how to hermeneutic means, of course, how to read a text, or what, if we look at a sentence, what does that text mean? Yeah, I just wanted to point out this hermeneutic problem that I see in the discourse of anti-feminism or men's rights activists or whatever. I think that we should be much more careful in how we're reading the statements that we are criticizing, in general, not just for anti-feminists. I don't mean, when I say we, to say that I'm an anti-feminist, because that's untrue. So yeah, that's all for the moment, and have a good day.